Hey everyone, what is up? I am recording in this new room. We moved, so I have this vanity room that I am trying to put together. It's really a mess right now because we just moved and I'm still trying to get some few stuff in and trying to organize everything. But anyways, I'm so glad I'll be making videos in this room from now on. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about what you need to start as a fashion photographer. I made a list in my notebook and we will be going through them. I hope that this video would be somewhat helpful to you and I hope that you could get some new ideas from it and all that stuff. Number one is gear. How can you shoot if you don't have anything to shoot with? So you first need a camera. If you're just starting out, I suggest going for a beginner level DSLR cameras. Like for me, I used a Nikon D3300 and I moved on to a Nikon D5600. Now obviously they updated those versions already. Like I think they have the D5600 now. Those are the DX cameras, so that means they're crop sensor. They're not actually a full frame camera. I started out with that kind of camera. Just get familiar with the structure of the camera and like the settings and how to work them and stuff like that. I'm just speaking from my experience. I started out with a crop sensor camera and then moved on to a full frame camera, and now I shoot with a Nikon D750. I think that one is like an actual, it's like the beginner pro level camera with the Nikon series. Now for glass or your lens, I recommend for portrait photography, I recommend a prime lenses. So that could be 85mm, 50mm, 35mm, that kind, those kinds of lenses. They're amazing for blurring out the background, so you get a lot of bokeh, and it's really handy to have because prime lenses are usually fast lenses and you can open up the aperture a lot wider so they do well in low light. So if you want to do like nighttime portrait photography, like let's say you want to do something Brenda Wolfelt-esque look, you could definitely do that. For me personally, I use a 24 to 70mm lens. It's like a zoom lens. I find that it works the best for fashion photography. It gives you like a wide enough range of focal length to like work with, like if you want like a portrait of your model or if you want like a full body shot of your model. If I were to use a prime lens for a fashion photo, I would have to step really far back from the model, and this is just my personal preference, by the way. I know that there are some fashion photographers out there who shoot with an 85mm, but just for me personally, I prefer using the 24 to 70 because it's just a lot more flexible in terms of you know, you don't have to like keep walking up and down towards the model. So I like that because it allows me to move quicker or take photos quicker basically. In all honesty though, when I started when I started becoming more serious about photography, I did start out with a kit lens, and in my opinion, I took some pretty good shots with the kit lens. So I will show you some images now of some of the photos that I took with my kit lens. So that would be an 18mm to 55mm DX lens. In my opinion, the photos are pretty good for a kit lens. So I guess that just goes to show that it doesn't like, your skill and your knowledge in how to use manual mode on your camera is more important than the gear that you have. In my opinion, don't get me wrong, gear does matter. Gear matters a lot. But in terms of this situation, if you're just starting out and you know nothing about photography and then you get like a D810 all of a sudden, which is like a full frame camera, it's like a pro level full frame camera, and you don't know how to use it, you will still get really shitty photos. So this is why I do recommend going for a crop sensor first, so like a beginner level camera, because honestly, if you're good at photography, you will be able to get good shots with a beginner camera. And the only reason why I upgraded from my D5200 to a D750 is because I outgrew the camera. The results that I wanted to achieve were not being met by that camera, which is why I upgraded. But if you have the money to spend like $2,000, $3,000 on a camera, then by all means go ahead and get a pro level camera. You can, in my opinion, you can certainly grow into it. But at the time I did not, I didn't even know if I wanted to do professional photography or not. But so that is why I started off with a beginner level camera. So on that note, if you have a really good piece of glass on the body of your camera and it's sharp, it's fast, you will get really good quality images. A really good lens can actually transform your photos even if your camera is a crop sensor camera. Also, since there are crop sensor cameras and there are full frame cameras, there's different lenses for each of those types of cameras. Just be mindful of the cropping factor. Like a lens that is meant for a full frame camera might work for the crop sensor camera, but it'll crop the images a little bit. But if you were to put a DX lens, which is the lens that comes with, or that is compatible with a crop sensor, and you put that on a full frame, it's not gonna work. You're gonna have a ton of vignetting. So you want to make sure you do your research on that. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of resources out there that you can look into about lens cropping on different DSLR bodies. So now that you have your gear, you want to know how to use it. And one tip that I found back then when I was just fidgeting with my camera and stuff and not really knowing how to use it, read your manual. I know it sounds obvious, but honestly a lot of people don't do it. But it's just to read the manual. Me, I even studied the manual when I used to shoot with the DSC-R1. It's a Sony bridge camera, which is basically like a digital camera and a DSLR put into one. You can't actually interchange the lenses or anything like that. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Point is, read your manual, because honestly you will uncover a lot of things that you didn't know your camera could do in terms of mechanical settings. And if you don't want to read the manual of your camera, you can search up tutorials on YouTube. There are a lot of people on here who show you how to use the camera and how to do what to the settings and why you need to do it like that and all that stuff. You need to know the basics of ISO, shutter speed, aperture. Okay, as I was saying, you need to be familiar with your ISO, shutter speed, and aperture settings in manual mode. This will, oh my god, this will honestly help you a lot in terms of being able to set your camera for different environments. You do not want to just rely on auto, because it does limit the results that you get with your photos. Now we're going to be talking about your subject. Since we're talking about fashion photography, that means models. When I started out, I used my friends as models and family members as well. As a fashion photographer, you're trying to showcase fashion, right? So what they're wearing, the clothes that they're wearing. So the reason why I recommend you working with your friends or your family members first is because you're familiar with them. You can plan out the wardrobe that they'll be wearing, use clothes that they already have and just mix and match it and plan a shoot from there. And honestly, if you're familiar with the model, because they're your friend or they're your family member, it'll get you better results in terms of posing. They won't be as stiff because you guys are relaxed, you guys know each other, you guys are comfortable with each other, so your photos will turn out better that way. Obviously, this is just at the start. You will have to work with models who you've never met before, but that is going to be in another video. So like I said, since this is a fashion shoot, go through their wardrobe with them if you can, or look for inspirational images online, on Google, on Pinterest. Look up styles that you want to try and replicate or get inspired from, and you can show those photos to that model, and you guys can coordinate what kind of clothing they can wear or they can bring to the shoot. You don't have to buy clothes for the shoot. You can start off with just what they have already in their closet. And as far as location goes, for me, it depends. Like for me, location and clothes go together hand in hand. If you have, for example, like streetwear, you're not going to really want to shoot in a field somewhere, because it's not very straight unless, you know, you're into abstract or deliberately trying to do some juxtapositioning or something like that. Then go ahead. That is, you know, ultimately no one can actually stop you, but I'm just saying, for better composition and better flow with the aesthetics of the image that you're going to be trying to shoot, go for a location that matches with your outfit, whichever one comes first. If you find a location first, then get the model to wear something appropriate for that shoot. If you find the clothing first, then find a location somewhere that is appropriate and matches the clothing of the model. For a location, honestly, there is really no way getting around it. You will have to get out there. You will have to sort of explore. Keep an open eye out whenever you're outside, if you're getting groceries or if you're visiting someone or whatever. Just pay attention to the surroundings, because honestly, you can take photos anywhere, literally anywhere. But shoot outdoors, because one, it's free and you don't have to pay for like studio fees or anything. And two, it's very accessible. And three, the lighting is good. Natural lighting is always great. Like starting out, you just want to work with what you have. You don't need lighting or anything like that, or like lighting equipment to get a good photo, because you can just go outside and use the natural light. So the next step is to start shooting. It could be really daunting at first, especially if you're new and you don't really know what you're doing. But honestly, for me, half the time, I don't even know what I'm doing. So this is where knowing your model beforehand comes in handy, because if they're your friend or if they're your family member, then you're able to be more comfortable with them and play around with different kind of poses, and it won't feel as, you know, intimidating. If you're really out of ideas for poses, look up some inspirational poses on Instagram. Yeah, you can do that on Instagram too, but like I use Pinterest, so you can go on Pinterest and search up like keywords of the photo shoot kind of vibe that you want to achieve. So for example, if you wanted to do a street shoot, then you can do street fashion photography or street fashion models, and then it'll show you the kind of different poses. Just pay attention to the different poses that the models do, and then you can kind of like articulate that to your model and try to achieve a similar, or maybe even create something totally different. Editing. Okay, now editing is a whole different topic, but I'm gonna put it in here because you do need to edit your photos. If you're going to want to do fashion photography or even portrait photography, you will want to invest in a good photo editing software. So most common ones are Lightroom and Photoshop by Adobe. I use Photoshop. I have Lightroom, but I don't really use it. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with how to use it. I've used it like a couple of times, but I really prefer Photoshop for the most part. Personally, for me, I started out using Corel Paintshop Pro X4 or 4X, I think. It allows you to do basic photo editing. It's not as extensive as Photoshop, but it does get the job done, especially if you're just starting out. I think they probably already have updated the version, but for me, I just use Corel Paintshop Pro 4X, X4, can't actually remember. So now that you have edited your photos and you are good to go, you will want to share them online because you want everyone to see your hard work and your beautiful photos. But if you don't actually feel comfortable sharing your photos yet, you can certainly just keep it to yourself. And when you're ready, you can start posting it on social media. I use Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you guys use the appropriate hashtags that fit with your photos. This is what will get people to actually see your photos, is if they can search it up via hashtags. Also, a note, when you do start posting photos of your models, and if your model starts posting the photos that you took of them, make sure you guys tag the appropriate people who were involved in the shoot. So if you were posting a photo of the model, tag the model. If the model's posting your photos of them, they should tag you, because it's all about networking. If somebody wanted to contact your friend, they could, because you tagged them in your photo and they see your photo, they could click that tag and it'll lead them to their profile. And the same thing goes for your friend. If someone saw their photo that you took and they credited you in the tags, they're able to get to your profile a lot faster than if you weren't tagged. So I hope that made sense. That being said, honestly, just keep practicing, keep getting out of your comfort zone. I know it can be scary to go outside and shoot, especially if it's in a public area where people are looking at you. Honestly, don't give a fuck. You're doing your own thing, whatever. So just keep practicing. Keep an open mind when you're looking at your own photos. Look at what you can improve on and try to aim on improving that for the next shoot that you have. And honestly, it'll just, you'll get better. Okay, that is it for today, you guys. I hope you found this somewhat helpful. I know I kind of been a little bit all over the place, but I haven't really done videos like this where I just sit down and I talk to the camera. But you know, hey, we're practicing, we're gonna work on it, and we're gonna get better. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.